Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about this, a brand new Sega Dreamcast game. Before we do that though, I want to advise you or inform you, whatever, that I have a Discord now. There's a link in the description. It's absolutely free. Click it, come on in, join, hang out with everybody, talk about video games. There's also the other social stuff like Instagram, Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff's in there. So click on whatever you want. Anyway, you can join the Instagram, but I meant to say join the Discord. So yeah, there's that. Secondly, this video, I want to give a shout out to Videogames New York. I was in New York recently for a Trials Rising event, which I swear is completely coincidental that I'm wearing a shirt for it because I didn't get this shirt at the event. I actually just really like that game. But yeah, I was in an event there for Ubisoft, and while I was there, I talked to Dan at Videogames New York, and he said, oh yeah, there's a new game in stock, come on by. So I walked down to the store, and he handed me a review copy of this game, Fade to Black, Flashback, which I have to say very slowly, otherwise it becomes a tongue twister. If you want to get it, there's a link in the description to the website. You can pick it up there along with a lot of the most recent brand new Sega Dreamcast games. So thank you to Videogames New York. Now with that said, yes, there are brand new Sega Dreamcast games that come out every once in a while, for those who don't know. Sega doesn't make them. Big companies like Ubisoft, Capcom, EA, Activision, whatever, they don't make them either. They're always done by indie devs, and that's how it's been really for years. In fact, the first one came out in 2003 with Feet of Fury. But there's been a whole bunch of them that have come out for totally different reasons over the years. There's companies or groups will decide, hey, I'm really passionate about that console, I want to make a new game for it. That's one motivator. Or there's people who are like, hey, I'm making this game, I want to put it on every platform under the sun, and then the Dreamcast just ends up with a copy of it. This is done by a group called JoshProd, which is really just one guy, as far as I can tell, whose name is not Josh, incidentally. Very nice guy. But his situation is a little different. I don't really know how he's doing this, but it's awesome. He's basically going up and like buying up the rights to a lot of games that he likes for one reason or another, and cutting deals with various companies, licensing deals, to legally bring a lot of games over to the Dreamcast instead of pirating them over. So for example, this is a sequel, sort of, we'll talk about that in a minute, to a game called Flashback, which is a very big game in the early 90s. I did a video of the Dreamcast version, but I'm sure you've noticed probably that it has resurfaced a lot lately. It showed up on the Switch and a few other platforms. What happened with that is that JoshProd actually bought the rights to the game. Like, he owns the game, not a copy, the rights to the game. He owns it. And he decided to bring it to a bunch of different platforms. And with other games he's put out, it's a very similar situation. Or I think there's a company called Visco that did a whole bunch of Neo Geo CD games, and he worked a deal with them to bring a lot of their games to the Dreamcast. And like, there's just been stuff like that. Now, he's been doing that for a while now, and he's going to continue to do that. I'm not going to talk about it, obviously, but I have seen that there's a lot more projects coming up, and I'm super excited about that. I think it's just awesome that the Dreamcast keeps getting all these new games. And if anybody's curious, like, how does that work? Like, how do you do that without Sega or anybody caring? Well, Sega as a company's, opinion of it is don't do that, but if you're going to do it, whatever. They don't care. They've never been dicks about it. And the other thing is, the Dreamcast is interesting because it's funny, and I did a whole video on this. The Dreamcast actually has some of the best copy protection ever produced on a game console. And of course the immediate reaction is, no it doesn't, I played burned games, whatever, it's really easy, you're stupid. No, it is actually very unique. So the way that the Dreamcast was designed, it could read three different types of discs. One was GD-ROMs, which is how your original Dreamcast games were actually, released. Then it could read music CDs, so if you just obviously put it in there, it could read that. There was also this third one though that we never saw called Mill CD. Now what Mill CD was basically some enhanced karaoke discs that only came out in Japan. And the idea was, if you got this karaoke music CD and it was Mill CD compatible, you'd put it in the Dreamcast and there would just be extra content like visualizations and things. Like the disc would have some unique features if put on a Dreamcast. But people eventually realized, well, wait a minute, that thing is reading data, and it's reading data off of a music CD format. We can exploit that, and that's exactly what happened. People would figure out how to rip GD-ROM discs using an actual Dreamcast and then re-encode them essentially on a computer and then burn them via the Mill CD exploit, so that the Mill CD exploit was then using data or reading all the data that way. It wasn't really meant to work that way, but it could. So the independent games, interestingly, just do that from the scratch, from the ground up. They're like, okay, well, what we're going to do is just use the Mill CD exploit, because you can't access the GD-ROM specific aspect of it, because no one can produce those, not even Sega. The machines don't exist anymore. So what you essentially have here from a technical perspective is a music CD that has a line of data in it, and the line of data in it is the game. It's actually very cool, and that's why a lot of these indie Dreamcast games actually function as independent music CDs as well, because they are essentially that with just a line of code in them, which is just, I've done a whole video on it. It's just kind of fascinating, not necessarily super relevant, but it does offer you some additional perks, and one of which is that the games are region free, so you can play this on a North American, Japanese, European Dreamcast. It doesn't matter. You don't need any sort of boot disk. I'm sure it's VGA compatible. It supports all that kind of stuff, but that's pretty normal these days. So let's talk about this game specifically. Now, Fade to Black, Flashback. My understanding of it is that it's a sequel to Flashback, but not the actual sequel. It's not Flashback 2. It was described to me as Flashback 1.5. And the situation as how it got on here, how JoshProd got a hold of it, is that I don't believe he actually owns this. I believe what he actually did was cut a deal for licensing agreement. So you've seen it pop up in a couple of different places probably. Obviously, being a dude who's really into the Dreamcast, that's what I wanted. But yeah, so this game was originally released on PC and PS1, I want to say sometime in the mid-90s. I want to say like 96, but I could be wrong on the actual year. So what he told me was that they took this is based on the PC version, which is not surprising, and they did as much like upgrading to the visuals as they possibly could. And I haven't seen it in action, but I'm kind of expecting it to look kind of like either like a really late PS1 game or like a really early Dreamcast game, like a legitimate, if you will, Dreamcast game. If I can get past the cellophane, I will show you the rest of the content. So sometimes people wonder like, hey, are these just like CDRs or whatever? And like, you know, they just wrote some stuff with a Sharpie, and it's like, no, these are actually high quality products. I mean, they're printed in factories. They're pressed on like legitimate disc pressing devices. They're very, very neat in that regard. I would not be supporting it if they were just burned stuff. And I know that's been kind of the assumption that people have had for years, is that's the case, but it's really not. But yeah, anyway, so get that out of there. So here we have the front of the game. And then the back. Now, the way JoshProd typically does his releases is they're kind of a mixed combo of North American and Japanese artwork. The back is usually Japanese style and the front is usually American style. However, if you open it up, typically what he'll do is also make the manual reversible so that it can appear to be all Japanese, and these things always get stuck in here, and it always bothers me because I don't want to damage it. But make sure I get the page out. Okay, yeah, you can take the manual out completely, and then like I said, it's completely reversible, so if you like the all Japanese artwork style, you can have that, and it actually is written in Japanese, and then of course it's also written in English as well. Has some ads for different versions for other games like Another World and Alice's Mom's Rescue, both of which I've done videos on in the past. Yeah, and then it's got ads for Flashback and Ghostblade, which I've also done videos on. There's a good chance if there's a Dreamcast game out there, the indie one anyway, I've done a video on it. Taking a look at the disc, yeah, it looks very, very cool. It actually looks like completely like a legitimate like GD-ROM, although it is not. But yeah, it looks completely on the up and up. Yeah, there you go. And unfortunately, the back art is not reversible to any sort of American style, but whatever, doesn't need it. There is also a PAL style, although I never really get those because those are only released in Europe, and yeah, Videogames New York is based obviously in the States. So there you go. And then because of the dual language aspect of it, you can have it sit in your Japanese collection if you want to, and then on the other side, you can put it in that way and have it sit in part of your English collection. Although personally, I separate all my independent Dreamcast stuff into one section. That said, all that stuff out there. This game, how does it actually play? I don't know, I've never tried it before. So we're gonna go ahead, fire it up, and take a look at it.
Okay, we've got the game rolling here. I'll give you guys more technical information and just more gameplay information in a minute, but there's this cool intro that starts right after this, so I figured go ahead and watch that first and then we'll talk.
That's me in there, Conrad Hart. Or maybe it would be more appropriate to say that's my body, lying in a tiny shuttle, deep in cryogenic sleep for 50 years. I've been drifting around the cosmos, alone. But however infinite the universe may be in size, you cannot be alone forever. Something eventually found me. They saw my shuttle and beamed me aboard. The cryogenic cycle that had kept me in a deep sleep was suddenly interrupted. I came to and opened my eyes, only to realize that to my horror, I was back in the clutches of my worst enemy, the morphs. And it didn't take them very long to decide my fate.
Welcome to the Luna Penitentiary, New Alcatraz. Easy to get in, impossible to escape, if you dare.
The Lizard was mistaken. We can escape in a cargo vessel. I'm John O'Connor. I was gonna take you with me when I escape, but you were out cold. By the way, I left you a few items of interest. You better grab your gear and move out. Maintain radio silence and I'll contact you at the appropriate time.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the intro there. Also, you saw the title card a little bit there. There's obviously options and things like that to go around and tinker with. What you're seeing now is basically my first attempt at playing this. I won't lie, controls in this game can be really frustrating. There is definitely a learning curve, which is appropriate considering these types of games. Flashback in particular was a lot about memorization of patterns and things like that. So in other words, you will die. You will die a lot trying to learn those patterns. That said, I liked this more than I liked Flashback. I wasn't particularly good at it. Of course, that would just take time and practice and all that. From a visual standpoint, I mean, it's by no means like impressive for what the Dreamcast is capable of, but from considering what the indie Dreamcast game scene typically puts out, it's not bad. It's one of the more technically impressive ones. Again, because it was originally a PC game from '95, you know. But yeah, so I do not beat this game or get anywhere even close to it. I'm just going to kind of show you basically what happens after you start the game, and you'll see it's just like a series of puzzles here. And this one really frustrated me because it's like I figured out the puzzle really quickly. Like you have to, you know, be standing on one set of bars and then the bars on the other side open. But physically doing that can be really frustrating with the controls. So yeah, it's not like I didn't get what I was doing, but at times it was just like, So that's another one of those things where you just have to get used to it. And I did get slightly better, and I'm sure I would get much more improved if I kept going. But yeah, so it was overall, it was pretty fun. For the sake of the record, I also have the M cable connected to this, which is why it's buffering out, I think, a lot more of the image, and I like it that way. It smooths it out, it creates the anti-aliasing, makes it look nicer, and I dig that. So the game obviously therefore supports you know, the VGA mode, and therefore meaning the progressive scan. As far as I can tell, you have infinite ammunition with that gun. You just have to reload it regularly. There's a health option later you guys will see. But at this point, I don't really feel like I have much else that I need to say about the game specifically, other than, you know, it's the sequel to Flashback. It's going to be a lot of trial and error, and I think I liked it, but I think I would have to play it a lot more to get way more into it, because my biggest gripe with it is just the controlling. The controlling was kind of frustrating, and I think there's a learning curve to that, and that would take some time. But other than that, it seems pretty solid. The music's pretty good and all that kind of stuff, and the shooting mechanic is part of what bothers me about the controlling. Like it's really hard to make a precise shot, but they also give you infinite ammunition, I guess, to make that easier. Though the health situation can, like I said, be a little frustrating, but that does improve because you will find the health spots. But yeah, anyway, so I won't bug you guys. I'll let you finish the rest of the gameplay footage, and I'll join up with you at the very end.
Secure all exits.
Access granted to South Corridor Passageway.
Don't shoot! I'm just the cook! Get in there, it's safe.
You idiot. You really thought you were gonna win that easy?
Access granted to Cafeteria Passageway.
Okay, so we are basically ending our gameplay sequence. So as much as I would love to tell you that I successfully beat the level and it was all amazing, nope, that's not what ends up happening. I end up dying. Spoilers for something that's about to happen. Yeah, I could have, again, more repeat plays and I would have eventually done it. But yeah, anyway, if you want to check this game out or any of the others, please feel free to do so at Videogames New York. Link in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all later.